So we just did a massive upgrade to lithiums. After sailing over 6 years around the world, after sailing 6 years, we've been sailing 6 years on it. In this video, we're gonna go over
So we've just finished a pretty...
We've been sailing 6 years.
So we've just finished a pretty amazing upgrade to 1200 amp hour lithium bank. And we are so stoked.
The reason we did it is because we've been living off-grid at anchor for over 5 years now. And we power everything from fridges to autopilot to air conditioning off that 1200 amp hour lithium battery bank. We're gonna go over all of that in this video, and we're gonna go over the mistakes we made in the past and things we're gonna upgrade in the future, and also where we're at currently.
Living off-grid and having these amazing battery banks that we're talking about today allows us to kind of live in places like this, where no one's around.
It's pretty gorgeous around here. We're in Thailand right now. This is Railay Beach, and it's kind of COVID lockdown once again, which means there's...
Who's that in the camera? Oh, is there a boat? I see a boat over there.
Thailand's going through its second or third wave of COVID right now, which means they're going back into kind of a soft lockdown. That means there's no tourists here. But if you're able to live off-grid, you're able to experience these places without any tourists. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, we think it's pretty awesome.
Oh geez. So this is our port aft engine room. Engine, batteries, starter battery over here, alternator, control box over here, diaper bag right here. When we bought Nahoa had AGM batteries, lead acid batteries, and we managed to kill those within, I think, a few months when we first moved aboard because we didn't have very good knowledge about battery care and maintenance. Then we put new lead acid batteries in, and once again we managed to kill those within 1 season. Then we sprung for the lithiums, and we literally bought them, dropped them in to where the lead acid batteries were, and it worked fine. See, these two batteries right here we bought in Puerto Rico at the start of our circumnavigation, and they've done really, really well. But there's been a few things over the last 5 years that have happened where I've realized that there's more to just dropping in lithiums. I'm gonna go over those today. First off, you'll see that there's not much room where these batteries are. I mean, these kind of go under here a ways and under there a ways. Boats from 2005, which is the age of this boat, didn't have the space to put a lot of batteries. I'm pretty embarrassed about this whole setup here, and I'm really happy that I've hired some electricians to actually professionally clean this up. So let's go over what actually is wrong with this setup right here, and then we'll move on to what we're planning to do down the road with the new lithiums from Relion. There's actually this standard called ABYC in the United States, and I think I would definitely fail any sort of inspection right now. There's a lot of things connected to the terminals, which is bad. This is the shunt over here. These are some voltage relay things. You've got positives crossing over negatives. Way too many connections on the terminals. I mean, what do I have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then another one, 7 right down there. All of these connections right here and here should actually be going to one bus bar, and then there should be one connection going from the bus bar to there. To give me some sort of credit, I was doing it in places such as Cartagena, Colombia, and some remote atolls where there are no parts. I also have no electrical knowledge, so I don't know if you can call me innocent or not, maybe.
Okay, I got it.
What happens when you go to lithium batteries, the battery's resistance is so low that when you have your charging equipment, whether it be an alternator or a solar charge controller or a shore power charger, the lithium batteries keep saying, give me more, give me more, give me more. And the charging equipment, the charging device, will try and supply more and more power to the point where the charging device just overheats. We had that actually happen really scarily with our shore power charger. Actually, let me show you that. So when we were in Puerto Rico, what happened is we plopped in the new lithiums, flicked on our shore power charger, and sat on the boat for an hour. Everything looked great. So we took off to Costco to provision because we were sailing down for I think 7 days or 10 days to Cartagena, Colombia. And when we came back, the shore power charger had actually caught on fire because it wasn't able to handle the amount of juice that the lithium batteries were asking for. Luckily, it melted and put itself out. So you have to be really careful about how old your charging devices are, and if they're really old, maybe consider upgrading them. We now have a Victron inverter and a Victron charger, shore power charger. Pretty stunning spot, hey? We've been anchored here for a week, maybe 2 weeks, I forget. But what I want to talk to you about is these solar panels. These are some of our passive charge inputs. We have a D400 wind generator, and then we got 4 times 295 watt solar. These produce the majority of our electricity during the day. I'm also standing on our hardtop. You'll notice that this hardtop is quite large and it does not have any solar panels yet. I'll go into that further a little bit later, but our plan is to add more solar panels up here because right now, as it stands, we do not have enough electricity to charge our new lithium bank fully after using the inverter and fans and fridges, charging laptops, and a bunch of other stuff all night long. Give me some of the fan. It's now 35 degrees Celsius here in Thailand, 90 plus degrees Fahrenheit every single day. We sweat a lot. We sweat in bed. When we lay on our backs, there's always this chin sweat happening right here. And of course the usual spots here, 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 here.
So this fan behind me is a new addition on Nahoa. We picked it up here when we were in the marina because it was bloody hot in the marina. And it blows so much air, it pushes it. It's on the low setting right now and it's still loud and obnoxious.
My dream has always been to run air conditioning off these new lithium batteries, and it is possible now. We ran our suitcase air conditioner the other night and we woke up and we found the battery bank was down to 45%. Then we spent the day watching the battery monitor and it went up to
60%?
60%, I think. We went back to bed, we woke up at 44% the next day.
Without running the air conditioning. When you're sitting at anchor, you don't run your engines. So that high output alternator, unless you purposefully turn on your engine to charge, never gets used. We do not have a generator. There is not a lot of wind right now in Thailand. It's sort of like switch of seasons and there's just not a lot of wind. When the squalls roll by, we get some pretty serious gusts of wind, but they last about half an hour. That is not, the wind generator essentially is useless right now. And the solar, which Ben went over earlier, it has put in quite a lot of power, but it's absolutely not enough to make up for the draw of, say, an air conditioner. So we find ourselves in a bit of a conundrum still. We have this amazing power bank and no way to charge it.
So these are apparently my toys. I thought kitchen utilities are the ladies' toys, but apparently not. We have a new toaster, and a toaster is really nice because if you don't have a toaster, you have to toast your bread in a pan on the oven. The other one we have is a kettle, just a typical kettle for making coffee in the morning. These are both powered off our lithium battery bank.
This kettle draws 2,000 watts. That is a lot of power. The toaster draws like 1,500 watts. That is a lot of power. Luckily, they don't take very long to do what they need to do. But it's a lot of power. Like when Ben turns this on in the morning, it draws down 2% of the battery bank to just boil water.
Before we had these two items, we used our stove and oven for everything else, and this thing is powered off propane. The problem with propane is that when you're traveling to different countries, they're going to have different connectors for the propane bottles, different propane bottles themselves, and if you don't have aluminum propane bottles, they will eventually rust. The other problem with getting propane in different countries is, well, getting it. You need to go across town, you need to find a fill-up station. Propane isn't as available as, say, diesel or gasoline. Propane is also very explosive, so we store the spare bottle up front in the anchor locker, which is vented, and the current propane bottles that we're using are under a seat in the cockpit, which is also vented. Using electricity to boil water, make toast, reduces our dependence on propane. We're also toying with the idea of going with an induction cooktop. We recently purchased this one burner induction cooktop. These are available at basically any home improvement store these days. The problem is they use a lot of electricity. So again, we're coming up against the wall of not having enough solar to charge our battery bank. The other thing that is really nice about the induction cooktop is less heat in the boat. When you have a kettle on the stove, you have a lot of heat escaping up around the edges from the propane fire. Whereas an induction cooktop, the heat goes directly into the pot, and then you have a little bit of steam coming off the top, but there's no huge amounts of heat coming up around the sides. So it does reduce the heat on the boat when we're cooking in the evenings. So we're kind of on the fence of whether we're gonna go all induction. We're definitely easing into it.
So I still really like to bake things. A lot of the meals we cook sometimes still go in the oven, and you know, baking baked goods, sweets, treats, and all those delicious things still go in the oven. For me, it's a really interesting experiment to try the induction cooktop. I definitely think there are times where you're just boiling a pot of water for some pasta or like some quinoa or something like that. That doesn't take very long to cook, where the induction cooktop is amazing if it's really, really, really hot out and you don't use any gas. And the other thing is, see, when you're offshore, you have these marine stoves that have all the gadgets so that your pot stays in one place when the boat's moving around. There's just no way that you're gonna get that with an induction cooktop. So I don't know. I think it's a nice to have. I think this is a great sort of compromise right now. It doesn't take up hardly any space. We just pop it in the cupboard down below, and it's kind of a cool toy.
This is a Victron battery monitor, and it's really nice. It's got a smart shunt, so it monitors all the input coming in, it calculates all the output going out, and from that it can give you a percentage of how much battery you have left. It also shows how much the solar panels are putting in, how much the inverter is taking out, and if you were connected to shore power, it would tell you how much that's putting in as well. One really important aspect of lithium batteries is having a good battery monitor, because the voltage of lithium batteries typically remains the same, 13.2, 13.4. If you look at the graph at the very end, once it's 80% discharged, it'll start dropping. So if you have a shitty battery monitor, or one that's not very sophisticated, they typically only show you the voltage, so you don't really know how much you've used up of your battery bank. The other nice thing about these Victron products is they have apps, mobile apps. So you have your port charge controller, your starboard charge controller for the solar, and you have your smart shunt, and they connect via Bluetooth, and you can see history such as how much we charged today, yesterday, the day before. You can see what's going in right now, how much time remaining based on what is going in and what is going out. I think it's one of the most important aspects of protecting your massive investment in your lithium batteries. The other thing we're noticing is that although our lithium battery bank is solid and huge now, and the wires coming from it to the bus bars are huge and solid, the AC system, so the alternating current system, 110 or 220 if you have whatever you have on your boat, is not designed to handle an air conditioner on it, plus a toaster, plus a kettle, plus. So often these breakers pop like that when we run the air conditioner plus the kettle. So you have to think of not only what you can power off your DC system, your 12 volt or 24 volt or 48 volt system, but also what you can power off your AC design system, because those wires and those circuits are going to pop once you add too much. So 2 induction cooktops wouldn't work, or an induction cooktop and a kettle won't work, or an induction cooktop and AC won't work, or AC and a toaster won't work. They'll just pop the circuits like that. So you have to think about these things before you go all out, and that's kind of why we're easing into it. So this is the new setup for our lithium system. You got your main master switch coming off your house bank down here, then it leads to the positive bus bar right here. Coming into that positive bus bar, you got your engine room alternator. You got your solar arrays complete with solar charge controllers. On this side you have your negative bus bar. We've also added a little fan right over here. This little fan is powered off a little circuit board that has a temperature probe, which is right up here, and it turns on when it gets too hot in this cupboard. These solar charge controllers put off a lot of heat, so you have to get that temperature out. Our 3000 watt inverter, we find, is plenty to power everything. It no longer trips when we run the air conditioner off it. The thing that trips is our AC circuit breakers up here. The other thing that you want to watch out for when you're installing your system, or shortly after you've installed it, just touch things. Touch and see if they get hot. Is the positive bus bar getting hot when you run your inverter with air conditioning? Is the solar charge controllers, are they getting too hot for the wood above it, or your negative bus bar, or your alternator wire coming into your positive bus bar? You gotta just touch these things. Heat is not a good thing when you're talking about electricity, so you want to upsize your cables if you're having any heat issues, or downsize your input loads, so you know, just step them down if they have charge controllers. Okay, let's get out of here. I'm very hot, I'm starting to sweat, and sweat is not a good thing on a human being.
Yes, it is. Maybe not mixed with electronics.
One thing I realized is I haven't even shown you where we installed our lithium battery house bank. We ended up going with the port bilge because, well, simply we don't have very many other places to install batteries. The engine room is no place for lithium batteries, or any kind of battery for that matter. It's hot, it vibrates, and it doesn't protect your investment. The other thing to note is that we've had Reliance for the past 5 years, and the reason we've chosen Reliance for the second half of our circumnavigation is because they held up in the first half of our circumnavigation. For the second half of our circumnavigation, we don't want to worry about running out of battery juice in the middle of the night in the middle of an ocean. We want to be able to run all of our electronics without worrying about it, and then passively charge them during the day. Obviously, that second part needs a little bit of work from our side. We need to expand on our solar array. If you're looking to replace some of your batteries, consider Reliance. They have the biggest variety of size batteries on the market. They've been on the market for a very long time. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like it, it's alright. See you next week. Well, what did you catch? Are you fishing?
What did you catch, Willa? You've nibbled! I've nibbled!
Whoa! Big fish on! Big fish! Fish! You gotta yell, fish on!
You lost it! It's okay, happens to your dad too.